Every day, we hear news from somewhere about someone passing away, something being discovered, or some significant event happening on Earth. But have you ever thought about the possibility of news coming from the frozen parts of the Earth where they found something truly bizarre and creepy? Some of them can be super spooky, weird, or even include a single alien. Who knows what kind of crazy stuff could be hidden in those icy, frozen places for thousands of years? It's like a treasure trove of strangeness waiting to be discovered. Welcome back to a new episode of Unsolved Clue. In this episode, we're going to talk about the creepiest and scariest things that have been uncovered from the melting ice due to global warming. I'd really appreciate it if you could follow the channel and give this video a thumbs up before anything else. Thanks a bunch. Alright, let's dive into the first one, mammoth brains. One of the weirdest things found in the melting ice is the brain of a woolly mammoth. Can you believe it? This mammoth is a whopping 39,000 years old and was discovered in the Siberian permafrost in Russia. The body is so well preserved that scientists can even use its DNA for cloning this ancient creature. How cool is that? The latest studies on this animal show that it was actually a baby and only about 6 to 9 years old when it died. And guess what? The reason for its early demise was a fall from a high place, which led to its immediate death. The cool thing about this mammoth is that when they cracked open its skull to examine the brain, they found out that even after all these years, some parts of the white and gray matter in its brain were still preserved. This is the first and last time they've come across something so well preserved like this. It's mind-blowing. Next up is Otzi the Iceman, also known as the Iceman of the Alps. This dude lived a mind-blowing 5,000 years ago and got famous as the most well-known mummy in Europe. They found this mummy near a lake in the Alps, right on the border of Austria and Italy. That's why they call him the oldest and best-preserved natural mummy in Europe. Talk about a seriously old and frozen dude. One super interesting thing that scientists found on his body was 61 tattoos. It shows that even 5,000 years ago, people were into tattoos. So, it turns out body art has been around for ages. At first, scientists thought all those tattoos might have been for some cultural or symbolic reasons, like having special meanings. But later, they found out that they were actually for medical purposes. Can you believe it? Those tattoos were used for medical reasons. It's like our ancestors were thinking ahead even back then. He had to deal with a bunch of health issues, like nasty parasites, internal problems, and the worst of all, kidney stones and gallbladder issues. On top of that, he suffered from bone weakness and joint problems. And get this, those tattoos were precisely placed in areas that would have hurt the most due to these ailments. It's like he was using body art to point out his pains. That's pretty hardcore, don't you think? But here's the plot twist, his health issues weren't the cause of his death. When they found him, turns out he had an arrow stuck in his shoulder, and he was killed by a blow to the head in a sort of backstabbing fashion. So, the big mystery here is, who the heck did it? Who was behind this whole thing? It's like a real-life ancient murder mystery. Things just got super intriguing. Next up is the children of Uyayaka, and boy, this one is both fascinating and disturbing because it has a really sad story behind it. In 1999, 3 mummies were discovered on the Uyayaka volcano, which is on the border between Argentina and Chile. One of these mummies was the body of a teenage girl, and the other 2 were around 6-year-old kids. Unfortunately, these children were sacrificed and murdered as part of a religious ritual that happened about 1,500 years ago. It's just heartbreaking. According to the research, their beauty was the reason they were chosen for this gruesome ceremony. They were left alone, 5 meters below ground in a cold and dry place, which turned them into mummies over time. It's chilling to think about what they went through all those years ago. So, this ancient story of sacrifice and the mummification process is both fascinating and sad. History can be pretty dark sometimes. And now, for the most interesting and weirdest part of this video. I bet you've never thought about it before, but we are not the only living beings in this world.
viral video sensation. This has become the most read story on FoxNews.com. Folks, that tells you something about what people are interested in. Look at this. Looks a lot like ET, doesn't it? It shows an alleged discovery of an alien in Siberia, as in an alien from another planet. Who better to ask than Trace Gallagher? Also an alien from another planet. Just kidding. He's from Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Hi,
some
Trace.
have said. Hey, Martha, you know, this is in southern Siberia, really the middle of nowhere. The villagers reported seeing a blue and orange glowing thing kind of hurtling at them, right? It looked like a UFO, so they ran to check it.
A few years ago, after an unidentified flying object was reported in Siberia, two guys stumbled upon a super strange body. Even though the body was badly damaged, it was pretty clear that something wasn't right. Guess what? It was an alien body. This thing was about 2 feet tall, and part of its right leg was missing and lost. And guess where this happened? In a region in Russia that reports UFO sightings dozens of times each year. But here comes the bummer. The Russian military swooped in after this report and completely cleared the area. And poof, no more news about that alien. They covered it all up. Isn't that just mind-boggling? Conspiracy vibes all around, right? Alright, let's dive into the scariest and most uncontrollable problem that could potentially come our way: ancient bacteria. There's this bunch of bacteria that pose no harm to us humans, and they might even be helpful. But think about this: what if, among all these friendly bacteria, there's a deadly batch hiding in the ice? Due to global warming in 2060, as the ice melts and mixes with the oceans and seas, these bacteria could end up in our drinking water. Imagine the catastrophe that could unfold. The reason is that our bodies aren't prepared to fight off diseases from thousands of years ago. This lack of defense could lead to a lot of people falling victim to unknown illnesses in the future. The only way we can prevent this major catastrophe is by reducing the use of fossil fuels and anything that contributes to heat generation. For example, using fewer fuel-dependent cars or fossil fuel power plants. Unfortunately, these issues are largely controlled by governments and major world powers. I personally don't believe they would even consider taking such actions, even for their own benefit, and that's it for this segment. I would be really happy if you could like the video and subscribe to the Unsolved Clue channel. Doing so helps us make progress and stay motivated to create higher quality and more engaging videos for all our dear viewers.